following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Trending news topics with Tom Simon and Fred Wallin. One represents good, one represents evil. I'll let you decide. With no hints, let's start with Fred. How are you, Fred? Have a nice show. Take over. And thank you both for being here.
Well, I'm the good one, folks. There's no question. Hey, Tom, why don't we start the show right now on Comfortably Zoned Radio Network?
Well, you know what I want to talk to. Normally we talk about the news of the day, and then we wrap it up with sports. But sports is so much on everybody's mind today, Fred, that we almost have to start out with baseball and talk a little bit baseball before we get going with Bill Cosby, Nikki Haley, and Kavanaugh. But first of all, baseball. We've talked about the Dodgers, maybe this being their year. I believe it's their year. Machado with a fantastic game yesterday. What do you say about the Dodgers? You used to work there every day.
No, I've been a Dodger fan since the age of 5, but every team that remains is awfully tough, awfully difficult. I mean, you can make a case that the Yankees are the best. You can make a case the Red Sox and their 107 wins are the best. You certainly can make a case that the Astros are the best. You can make a case that Milwaukee, the way they're playing now, might be the best, and you can make a case for the Dodgers. So I wager, folks. I play fantasy, and I still wager a little bit. This is one situation. Milwaukee's got the home field advantage. I wouldn't wager one way or the other on that series, nor did I wager one way or the other on the Yankees-Red Sox series. This is 5 teams left, and it can be a most interesting next couple of weeks.
We saw the Dodgers offense really take off. We saw the Dodgers saw the Dodgers negate the problems in the bullpen when they score runs. When they score runs early and they take over. And when they get long nights out by their starting pitchers. That happened in 3 out of the 4 games, and they won 3 out of those 4 games against the Braves. Of course, the Braves are a young team, not as good as maybe the other teams that they're going to face, certainly not as good as Milwaukee. But if the Dodgers keep hitting the ball the way they've been hitting it, Fred, they're going to be hard to beat because their bullpen's not going to have to do too much.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously they're hitting now, but they go in bad streaks. And let me just state this also. Clayton Kershaw is not the Clayton Kershaw 2, 3, 4 years ago. His velocity has dropped 3-4 miles an hour. In the start against Atlanta, he had 1 strikeout in 7 innings. I don't think that's ever happened in his career. And then he struck out 2 in the 8th, and then they pulled him. But my point I'm trying to make is he's not dominant. And if you're not dominant, anything is possible. If you hit a line drive and Machado catches it at a shortstop, was that a good pitch, or were you fortunate that the ball went straight to Machado? I mean, those things happened in the game against Atlanta. As far as Ryu is concerned, he pitched fine the game before, and on Friday at Milwaukee, Kershaw will get the first start, which is interesting also because, of course, he was the second starter in the previous series against Atlanta, so it's interesting. But you can't tell me that the Red Sox don't have as much hitting as anybody, and the Yankees set the all-time record for home runs. So, you worked for KBC and the Dodgers. I worked for KBC and the Dodgers. I was brought up a Dodger fan. I think now you're more an Arizona fan, but still, I couldn't pick among the 5 teams. I really couldn't. I'm just going to sit back and watch and look for particular players and play fantasy and who might have big nights, and we'll see what happens. Hicks is playing tonight for the Yankees after missing a game or 2, so he does make a difference in that lineup, and we'll see what happens.
All right, we'll get to the Yankees, Red Sox in just a moment, but I got to disagree with you, Fred, on Kershaw. I believe Kershaw is a better pitcher today than he was 2-3 years ago. Sure, he throws the ball not as fast as he used to, but he is a smarter pitcher. He picks his spots. And I don't know what you're talking about with his game the other night. He went 8 innings of shutout baseball, regardless of whether a line side went to Machado or not. 8 innings of shutout baseball in the playoffs. That's what a leader does, and he picked them apart. I'm not looking for strikeouts from Kershaw anymore. I'm looking for a smart, intelligent, experienced pitcher, the pitcher of a generation, and that's what he is. He's the premier pitcher of our generation.
No, I'm not arguing that, for 8 years, if you took those 8 years, he'd be considered the best. But what I am saying is that there are some hard-hit balls that happen to be caught in that game against Atlanta. If you strike somebody out, there aren't hard-hit balls. And it does make a difference. Now, the positive about the fact that he's not striking out as many is that I think he only threw like 82 or 83 pitches, so he could get through the eighth. But, again, I'm the biggest Kershaw fan you can find, but I think it's...
You don't sound like it.
Well, I just think he's not dominant. And again, one night, those balls are...
Fred, how are you not dominant when you in a playoff game? How are you not dominant when you pitch 8 shutout innings? That's the epitome of dominant.
That's 24 outs, and maybe 6 or 7 of them were hit hard. What if those go through? That's my point. They were caught against Atlanta. Will they be caught on Friday night against Milwaukee? I don't know. If you're not striking them out, they're hitting the ball. Are they all soft outs? No, not all of them were soft outs. Some of them were soft outs. Some of them were hard outs. And so that's all I'm saying is that, and if you just take a look at the odds, let's say Kershaw 3-4 years ago, let's say if he's pitching at home against an average pitcher, he'd be like 260 to win 100. Now, if he's home against an average pitcher, maybe he's 200 to win 100. So what I'm saying is, from the point of view of wagering, and these people followed very, very closely, he's not the same pitcher he was before. Now, I hope on Friday night he shuts out Milwaukee, but I'm just saying he's not dominant. You played enough baseball. I played enough baseball to know the difference between somebody who's totally in control and, in this case, maybe 6 hard-hit balls that were caught. I mean, they don't have to be hit directly at somebody. Maybe in the Milwaukee game, they're 3 feet to the left, and those are base hits or doubles or whatever the case might be. That's all I'm saying. I can't guarantee. Look, Cleveland had 4 pitchers who struck out 200 batters, and they lose 3 straight. Anything is possible. You've got some really good teams involved in the playoffs right now, and this is when baseball is at its peak. And it's fun to watch. And let me say something else. The Dodger bullpen still cannot be counted on because Kenley Jansen should not be pitching. Kenley Jansen should be getting ready for his heart operation. He should not be pitching. He struck out. He made the final out and the final 3 outs, of course, on Monday, and to win the series against Atlanta. But he's still not as dominant as he was because he's off his pill. And so he's just not 100%. And we know that, and Dodger management shouldn't even be allowing him to pitch, but they care about the World Series more than a human being who had a heart operation 6 years ago. And it's very dangerous for him to be there on the hill, specifically without the pill that his doctor authorized. So all I can say is I hope nobody's hurt. I hope it'll be a fun next couple of weeks, and I hope you're right. We'll see what happens.
Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Tom Simon in Williston, North Dakota. Fred Wallin is in Westlake Village, California. This is Trending Topics News Radio Live. We come to you each week at 5 o'clock Central Time, 3 o'clock Pacific Time. That'll change a little bit with the changing of the times. We'll have to figure all that out. We'll let you know how that goes. Before we get off of baseball, Fred, I love to watch the Yankees play Boston, but I had to turn the television off last night. It's ridiculous. What happened to the Yankees?
One game, anything's possible. That's all. I mean, and in one game, anything is possible. I mean, so it's like tonight it could be totally reversed. We'll see what happens.
Well, what do you think about tonight and the matchup tonight?
I think both pitchers are very hittable. I think Sabathia is certainly not the Sabathia of old. I don't think there's any question about that. And Porcello is not dominant. Porcello is going to need a lot of hard outs. He's not going to strike a lot of guys out. So it could be a 6-5 game, something like that. I mean, I haven't seen the total. I imagine the total in this game is probably 9 or 9.5. I'd still probably go the over. But
on an elimination game, Yankees, Boston, and you're the Yankees with the current pitchers they have, wouldn't you want no one else but Sebastian?
I don't think they at this point have any dominant pitcher. I mean, from that aspect, I just don't think so. I just don't. And again, I'm going to repeat. This is we're in the playoffs now, folks. The best pitcher for most of the season for the Cleveland Indians was Trevor Bauer from UCLA. He missed most of the last month, so all he was a reliever. That series could have been turned around because he'd have been their first starter. And they had 4 guys with 200 strikeouts. So my point is Cleveland had the most dominating pitching staff, and they're gone. So anything is conceivable. Anything is possible. In a couple of fantasy teams tonight, you play 5 guys. I played 4 Yankees in both of them. So I guess I'm presuming the Yankees are going to win, but anything is possible.
Trending Topics News Radio Live. Good to have you with us. I'm Tom Simon. He's Fred Wallin. On to the news we go over today, and there's lots of news to talk about. The first one I didn't think we'd be talking about today. There are 2 stories that I didn't think we'd be talking about so early in the game. The number 1 story that I want to talk about, Fred, is Bill Cosby. Cosby asking through his attorneys to be let out of prison already after just being in prison for a few weeks. That's it. And he's already asking for the appellate court to overturn his conviction and to let him out on bail while they consider it because he believes, his attorneys believe, that the judge was biased and made some wrong decisions in the case. Should Bill Cosby be viewed as a predator, as I believe, and should he be kept in prison for the balance of his life? You say what?
No, his psychiatrist or the psychologist said that he's no longer a danger to anybody. So from that aspect,
you really believe that?
I don't know. Have 2 more or 5 more psychiatrists talk and let them decide. I don't know. I know that he hurt somebody, but again, a few months ago, Joe Arpaio, same thing. He hurt a lot of people in different ways, but he certainly wrecked their lives too. Nobody who was for Trump screamed about that. They're basically the same age, Arpaio and Cosby. Nobody screamed about that. He ran for senator. So you're saying that Cosby shouldn't be home, but Arpaio can run for senator. I find that rather humorous, to tell you the truth, because either there is justice and fairness and equality, or there's not. And obviously, at this point, under Trump, there's not, because his people are out. And
Trump has nothing to do with this.
The thing positive I can say about Bill Cosby is that he was one of the funniest comedians ever, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and the show was great and the show was fun. But what he did was horrendous. But what Arpaio did was horrendous, and he ran for senator just last 2 months ago.
Bill Cosby is gross. Bill Cosby is impossible to listen to. I can't look at his old cartoons, his old commercials, his old stand-ups. I can't even look at him. The guy is awful. He's a creep. And I can't say anything worse about him than that. He took advantage of women who went to him for help in the business. He drugged them, and then he had sex with them, and then he threw them away like a dirty dish towel. That's Bill Cosby. That's the kind of guy he is, and he deserves nothing more than being slapped in the face with a chicken patty, even though now the the prison authorities say that story was false.
Well, Pyle took advantage of people who were in prison. He used his power to destroy people's lives. He put them in tents when it was 110 degrees. I mean, so, as bad as Cosby was, I can make the case our Pyle was no better. And our ingenious president pardoned him. So, you can make the case. Nobody screamed. I mean, the majority of people, even though they were anti-Trump, I don't remember anybody who was for Trump who screamed about that. So until I can hear it from both sides, I'm going to repeat what I said. This country is no longer a country of justice, fairness, equality, or anything. If the psychologist said that Cosby is no longer a predator, no longer dangerous, you want to get 2 more psychologists or 3 more or 5 more, whatever you want to get. If the majority agree there, put something around his ankle and put him home, because he's going to be killed if you put him with the rest of the prisoners. That I can guarantee you.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Fred, since you're so liberal with your forgiveness for Bill Cosby. Let's say that he gets out and he moves to Westlake Village, California, and he buys the house next door to you, and the next thing he does is he invites Sandy, your wife, over for dinner to talk about the business, because she's in the movie business, and he wants to talk about the business. You let your wife go over there with Bill Cosby, the rapist, and spend time alone?
What I'm saying is you put an ankle thing around him, and he can't leave his house except to see a doctor or a lawyer. And nobody can come over his house without the okay of the government. So, no, the answer, and he can't move. He's locked in, he's in his own house. He can't sell it, and, he can't move to another area, another state or another city. No, but if you put him with the regular group of people, a regular group of prisoners who, didn't have the millions of dollars that he had, they're going to be envious and jealous of him, so they're going to take it out on him. You know that, and I know that. So he's going to be the focal point of their antagonism, and the people in charge in the jail said that he really wasn't hit in the face, but it will happen if he's put with the regular group of people. So he cannot, under no circumstances, can he be put in the public group of prisoners. They're bad enough, and nobody said anything when Manafort had his own room, bathroom, shower, whatever the case might be. I don't remember on this show or any show, or in fact, I never heard anywhere people screaming about Manafort having it. Why should Manafort's 69? Cosby's more than 80. Did you worry about Manafort having his own room?
Manafort did not rape people. Manafort did not seduce women and drug them. He didn't drug people. Get it straight, Fred. Manafort is a white-collar criminal.
But it didn't matter.
And
I'm not arguing who did. I can't argue who did worse. I'm saying Manafort was in prison and he got special privileges. Is it okay for certain people to get special privileges and other people not to get special privileges? I guess that's the question.
No, the answer is no, it's not okay. Comfortably Zoned, the radio network, Fred Wallin in Westlake Village, California. Tom Simon coming to you from Williston, North Dakota, where it's a chilly 35 degrees today. No snow, though, although we had our first snow last week. And today, the second big story that popped that we had no clue was going to pop, Nikki Haley, UN ambassador, resigns from her position as the UN ambassador after doing a stellar job. I was shocked and surprised. Most of the people in Washington were shocked and surprised. Were you shocked, Fred?
Yeah. Shocked. I don't know. I really didn't think about it twice after what's been going on in this world. She wants to leave. That's fine with me. I think there's a lot of possibilities. One of which, of course, is that, like the Pruitts, and the others, she'd been using private jets for her own personal reasons, and legally you can't do that. So she didn't want to be caught in that. Another possibility is that Lindsey Graham is from South Carolina is going to be named Attorney General after the midterms, which I think is very possible. That's why he screamed as he did during the Kavanaugh thing. And then, of course, there'd be an opening in the Senate in South Carolina. She was the governor of South Carolina, so there's no reason that the governor would name her senator, so she'd be back in. Another possibility would be she knows 2 weeks. As we tape this show, folks, on Thursday, on Tuesday, we're exactly 4 weeks, 28 days away from the midterms. Another possibility might be she knows what's going to happen in these midterms, that Trump's going to be tramped on, and she wants to run for president or a higher office at some point, and she doesn't want to be any part of the Trump administration. Beyond that, your guess, what are your guesses? I don't know. We're just assuming things, but some of those might be partially true. Some of these may not be partially true. We'll find out.
I take her at her word. First of all, I want to say what a wonderful job she did as UN ambassador from the U.S. Terrific job in balancing the North Korea problems, in balancing China, the Syria chemical weapons problem, Russia and their involvement with Syria and the bad acting that they did. And she called Russia out on their interference in the election. She was not afraid to do that, even though her boss disagreed with her. She has been very forthright with what she's done. Fantastic job, Nikki Haley. I believe, Fred, that she's tired. I believe that as she said today, she spent 6 years as governor, then went right into 2 years in one of the most taxing, difficult jobs in the country, in the world in itself. She did a great job at both things. I believe she's tired. She wants to spend time with her family. She's a young woman. She's not, she's not your age and my age.
No, I don't think. I think politicians are always on the move. Politicians always want to do something. Politicians always want to move forward. I don't think being tired has anything to do with it. I think it's either she doesn't want anything to do with Trump and his administration because she knows what's going to happen 4 weeks from today, or she did take flights on planes that she wasn't supposed to, or she is going to be a senator again in South Carolina. All those are possibilities. And folks, again, she was never a Donald Trump supporter. She was a Mario Rubio supporter. She was a Ted Cruz supporter, and I think one other one before all that was left was Donald Trump. So my point is it's not as if her entire existence has been in supporting Donald Trump. It's exactly the opposite of that. So again,
but she was loyal to Donald Trump, very loyal to Donald Trump while she worked for him, yeah. And she did a very, very good job. Why can't you just admit that this is a woman who did a great job at the UN?
Well, because I wish the woman would have spoken up last week during the Kavanaugh hearings. And again, that's another possibility. She didn't. And, maybe she has a good friend who's been attacked by a man. Maybe she knows people that have been attacked by a man. Maybe she knows in her heart that Ford was telling the truth and Kavanaugh wasn't. And last night, was in my mind, I think to a lot of people, was like Trump's done a lot of nutso things in his 20-something months now as so-called president. But last night, for him to go during the confirmation thing again, to go after the other side and say Kavanaugh was proven innocent. Kavanaugh wasn't proven innocent. The FBI talked to 9 people out of 100, proved nothing. So my point is, that's about as low as you can go on a night that shouldn't have been like that. But Trump, of course, always has to, in his own mind, get that victory. And maybe she was sick of it. And the timing could be right. He did the thing yesterday, and today she resigned. So maybe she didn't want to speak up outwardly against him. But she knows in her heart what really happened at that Kavanaugh hearing and really what happened with Ford and Kavanaugh. And so that's the bottom line.
Final story, and then we'll get out of here. Just a couple minutes left on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network with Tom Simon and Fred Wallin. Fred, here in North Dakota, where I'm at, big battleground state for the Republicans looking to take back the Senate seat from Heidi Heitkamp, the Democrat. Heitkamp, over the weekend, voted against Kavanaugh, nearly sealed her fate. But what struck me was the reason that she gave, Fred. Did you hear her on 60 Minutes where she said she made her decision by turning the sound down on Kavanaugh's testimony and just watching his mannerisms. And from there, she determined he wasn't telling the truth. How crazy is that?
I don't know if that's crazy. I think she just believed Ford. And again, she was 12 points behind in most of the polls when she took her stand, and maybe she figured she was going to lose anyways, and so she may as well be true to her heart, be true to what she really believes. So the only way she's going to win is between now and the midterms if something really comes out as far as Kavanaugh is concerned, if something just really blew up in the next month where somebody had a film or a tape or something like that. Other than that, she's a loser as far as the election is concerned anyways. So if that were me and, I have a choice to make and I'm going to be losing the election anyways, I'm going to at least stand up for what I believe in this case because I have nothing to lose. I mean, I might as well tell the truth as far as I see it.
The 3 polls that were taken in this race, one back in June, had her 4 points behind. One back in the early part of September had her 10 points behind. And the Fox News poll, the most recent poll, which concluded on October 2nd, had her 12 points behind. I believe they're doing some polling right now, Fred, and I got to tell you, I bet you she's at least 20 points behind, 18 to 20 points behind when that polling comes out. She has no shot unless, as you said, somebody implodes like her Republican challenger, Kramer, implodes and does something really crazy. But until then, it looks like the Republicans are going to pick up a seat in the Senate there, and there's no path, as I can see it, for the Democrats to pick up the Senate. There is still a path for them to pick up the Congress, and we'll have to talk about that next week. Your final say before we get out of here.
No, your point well taken. There are 24 Democratic seats open and 9 Republican seats open as far as the Senate is concerned. So I don't, unless the Kavanaugh thing blows up in the next 4 weeks, the Republicans are still going to hold the Senate. But in the House, I got to think that the Democrats will pick up 50 seats, and the first thing they'll do is ask for the income tax returns on Donald Trump, and then all hell will take loose come January 20th, 2019.
Well, you can pray. At least you can pray about that. I know you don't pray very often.
Don't pray at all.
All right, Fred Wallin. Go Dodgers and go Yankees tonight. Yankees, Boston. Who else plays tonight?
Nobody. One game. The others are over. Just one game.
Well, it'll be worth watching. And we'll talk with you folks next week on the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Tom Simon in Williston, North Dakota. He's Fred Wallin in Westlake Village, California. Have a good week.
Bye, everybody.
This has been a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.